Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Conversations with DrCybersecurity. And my first guest today is Sister Merceditas Ang from the Philippines.
Good evening, Dr. Hasib, and to all our viewers. It is 9 o'clock in the morning here in the Philippines. Dr. Hasib, by the way, congratulations for being a finalist in the 2020 People's Choice Award in Cybersecurity. You have my vote.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm so blessed.
I'm very excited to be one of your guests. Thank you for your time and thank you for this opportunity.
Absolutely. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us a little bit about your university and the things that you're doing there, all the amazing things that you're doing. Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay. I'm Sister Merceditas Ang, SPC, the President of St. Paul University, Philippines. Our school is located in Tuguegarao City in the northern part of Luzon in the Philippines. Due to this pandemic, we don't have face-to-face classes, and learning continues in the digital platform, both synchronous and asynchronous. In our university, we have complete levels from nursery up to graduate school. Well, I don't consider myself as techno-savvy, but I'm now interested in technology solutions to enhance learning outcomes. In online learning, as we know, the issues on data privacy and cybersecurity usually crop up. I remember, Dr. Asib, when you were one of the speakers in the webinar of Hero Brain Share,
Yeah.
here in the organized by Bryce Fabro here in the Philippines.
Yes.
And you inspired us with your conceptual model of cybersecurity leadership because it is not just focused on the technical aspects of technology, but also on ethical leadership, people engagement, and perpetual innovation. So I welcome this opportunity to be able to interact with you online and to ask a few questions.
This is absolutely wonderful because it is so nice to talk to you again. I see that same excitement and the way you now have understood what cybersecurity is and what it can do for organizations. I love it. I love it. I love it. So my work in doing that session was useful. So we have touched people like you.
Okay?
So what kinds of questions do you have for us today, sister?
In our school, we have an existing degree program on information technology.
Mhm.
And we are interested in talking with the idea, about cybersecurity leadership as a specialization, sort of like that. Can you please share what are the advantages of offering a specialized course or perhaps a certificate program leading to a degree in cyber leadership? Also, may we know, based on your experiences, about the vital job opportunities for cybersecurity specialists that would have far-reaching impact on people and nations in terms of interconnectivity and social transformation, especially in our context today that people are studying and working at home. So we really need online learning and connectivity with people, but we have to be careful also of the data that we share.
Right. So you actually highlighted the issue when you made your own introduction and the summarization of what I said, because you talked about how leadership and ethical leadership is so important because the ethical leadership does two things. Number one, it ensures that the information that is being shared with the people to make decisions will have truth. Because if you don't have truth to the information, then people are going to make incorrect decisions. And those incorrect decisions could be the difference between life and death. So it is very important for that. The second thing is the leaders have to be examples for the rest of the organization, right? So if the people in executive leadership don't have ethical leadership or ethical values, then why is the rest of the organization going to do anything like that? So the leader establishes the culture of the organization, right? So this is the reason. Now, technology and cybersecurity leadership is intertwined today because without leadership, that technology has absolutely no value, right? Because what happens is that the leader decides the appropriate technologies for the mission of the organization, how that technology is going to be configured, and then how that technology is going to be used, and then who is going to use it, training, provide the proper training. All of that is all aspects of cybersecurity leadership. And unfortunately, in too many technology programs, that leadership component is missed. And this has become most vital because it doesn't matter what field you're in, whether you're nursing, healthcare, biotechnology, education, energy, nursing, it doesn't matter. It's all about the digital strategy. Without information technology, digital strategy, nothing works. So that is why once you introduce a course like that, that would be a game changer because it would also distinguish your university from anybody else because not too many people have that right now.
Thank you. That's a beautiful insight. We really have to connect technology, the use of technology with the mission of the school. We believe that technology is a tool in learning in particular, and it cannot replace teachers. But we need technology to enhance learning and to enhance the learning outcomes as well.
Yes,
Thank you
I see technology as making humans more productive and innovative. So where a human might have been able to teach, say, 25 students, today through technology, a single human being could potentially be teaching 5,000 students at the same time. Right? That potential exists. I have had situations where I've talked to 2,000 people at the same time.
Yeah, that's correct. Seamless education, borderless education, how
Yeah,
wonderful with technology. I have another concern
sure.
with respect to interdisciplinary approach towards cybersecurity leadership. What do you think about this interdisciplinary approach? Whereas the usual understanding of cybersecurity is focused on technology, do you think that even those people without any formal background and training on computer science and information technology or their undergraduate degrees and work experiences are not directly related or aligned with computer science? Nevertheless, can they take the cybersecurity leadership program in the graduate level? What do you think?
Absolutely, absolutely. If anybody understands my book, they will be able to go through this entire program because the leadership aspects of cybersecurity means you develop a broad understanding of the whole field and how technology can drive the mission of the modern organization, what things you have to do, what types of people you have to hire, the importance of teamwork, importance of inspiring innovation, because any organization today has to do perpetual innovation. You mentioned that. That was one of the ideas that you embraced from my seminar. So who is going to innovate? It's the people, right? We have to inspire those people. And so everybody has to learn this leadership. And we need to establish a culture of leadership through every organization. So you talk about the interdisciplinary aspect. So let me address that. You saw from the model that I shared that cybersecurity has people, policy, technology, but we also have risk management, we have governance. At the same time, we also have marketing because we have to promote. If we have to, the job of every leader is to promote ideas. So communication becomes very important. We were just talking with Sanjeev, who is going to be the next guest, about culture between countries and the understanding between countries, how that could play. Because what means something in one country may mean something else in another country. Like a color may have a different significance, or a word may have a different significance, or even a sign may have a different significance. So that is important. And then we have to understand the people aspects. Well, maybe there are gender-based issues that we need to address in some places more than others. So all of these nuances come into driving the mission. If you think about whatever a modern executive needs to do, a cybersecurity leader professional today needs to do the same things, because essentially they're running parallel to the CEO, where the CEO may be doing the business elements and the mission elements, but then the CIO type or the cybersecurity leader type is taking that and then operationalizing it in the digital strategy. You see, so the mentality has to be very similar. As a matter of fact, you are already a cybersecurity leader, even though you may not recognize yourself that way. And in the same way, many people might not think I'm a cybersecurity person because I do most of the leadership aspects. I do the strategy aspect. So because I don't do programming, some people think, are you really in cybersecurity? I said, absolutely I am. I'm not in programming. I'm not a computer scientist, because there's a big difference between computer scientist and cybersecurity professional. The computer scientist is developing a program, a application. That's it. They don't necessarily even sometimes decide how that program is going to be applied, how it's going to make money. That is not even their concern. See, the interdisciplinary has to be very, very important. And I was just talking about somebody that how public speaking is so important for these kinds of people. To be successful today, you have to be able to communicate.
Yeah, thank you for that viewpoint. It's really important. So we have to, I think, change also the mindset and culture, particularly what is prevalent in any organization. We usually equate cybersecurity with those who are experts in computer programming, and we equate cybersecurity with hacking and all the issues on data privacy. So it's really good that you intertwine cybersecurity with principles of leadership, particularly people engagement and ethical leadership as anchor.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah, it's vital, because if your mission is not successful, it doesn't matter how much technology you know. Part of the reason why it's failing, because most organizations are ignoring the people part. They're ignoring the leadership part. They're just trying to buy some boxes and technology, and they're literally wasting time and money. That's the unfortunate part. What else? How about your doctoral program? Are you still doing that?
We are trying to negotiate, and we are working on a possible partnership with Willis College. Perhaps we will have a creative way of doing it through transnational education program. We will see. It's still a work in progress.
Good, good, wonderful.
I hope it will materialize. I hope we can have a model that will be workable on both sides. Because you see, here in the Philippines, there is always the issue of internet connectivity and the pricing because of this pandemic. The favorite word now of people is the word free.
Ah.
So, so it's not easy to market. Although if we come up with a certificate program which is really relevant, leading to a degree and embed it with the curriculum and instruction, we will see. I think it will probably work out. We will see. It's still a work in progress. We
Sure.
will update you on that.
Great.
I have another concern. It's not
Okay.
really a concern, but I'm just curious. Your program on cybersecurity is famous and spectacular. With the prevailing cyber crimes and threats to data privacy in the web and the rising incidence of hacking, cybersecurity is really a relevant and vital concern nowadays, especially. Can you please share some standout points and best features of your own brand of cybersecurity?
Well, my model is all about people empowerment. So whatever you're doing, whether you're trying to protect yourself from hacking or you're doing the hacking or creating whatever strategy, it's all about the people. If you don't have the people, nothing else works. So my program has essentially taught the students the right way. You probably are going to appreciate this fact that we spend a lot of time on the critical thinking element. We are not just teaching technology. As a matter of fact, in most of the program, we don't start teaching them anything. We first give them the problem to solve. We say, here is the problem that you'll have to solve. Now, to solve this problem, what knowledge would you have to get? What tools would you have to learn about? And then how would you put all that together to solve this problem? You see, so it's a completely different approach. Because in real life, that's what they're going to get. They're going to get a problem. They're going to have to figure out what they need to learn, what technology they need to get, what technology they need to defend against, all of these things, or even what people they need to talk to. You see? So this flipping the model of teaching, where in normal teaching, what do? We feed them a whole bunch of knowledge. The student still doesn't know why they're learning that knowledge. You see the difference?
Yeah, yeah. You have a unique approach.
Right. It is
Yeah, yeah.
practical oriented, it is competency oriented, and it is problem solving oriented. And then they don't just solve the problem. After solving the problem, they learn to argue why their solution is the best solution, right? Because this is not like mathematics. Because in mathematics, for example, 2 plus 2 is always 4. But in our field, just like in business, and you are the president of a university, so you know, every decision you make has 4 or 5 right decisions. You are always choosing the best decision for that point in time with whatever information that you have, correct? So this is the same thing with any problem solving or cybersecurity related problem solving. There are 4 or 5 solutions. Which one are you going to pick?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's a very nice viewpoint because in technology solution we just don't focus on the solution per se. We also think of the impact on people,
There you
on
go.
the consequences, far short term and long term.
There you go.
Because whatever technology solution you come up with will have a domino effect on the other aspects of the organization.
You
Yeah,
have
because
spoken like a beautiful cybersecurity leader.
I have not yet studied. I just listened to you and I read your book. I read your book cover to cover.
That is wonderful. That is wonderful. You should write a review on that, and I would be honored if you do.
Yeah, I'll find time to do that.
Just make a 1-minute video. Yeah, explaining what you just learned and what you just even said. Because what you said in the very beginning, that could be put together in a 1 to 2 minute video. You would put it on your school's website. That will immediately make your school stand out. There's no university CEO who's going to talk like that except for Rima Aristocrat, right?
Yeah, I believe you.
Yeah, so, and that is important. The CEOs and the presidents of universities that are thinking like that, they need to start standing out. You need to start speaking out. So, sister, I was very, very delighted that you came to talk to me and we had this wonderful conversation. We are going to network later, but I'm going to bring in my next guest, Sanjeev Gathani from Singapore. Sister, thank you.
Thank you too, Dr. Hasib. Your show is commendable indeed. I wish you the best in all your endeavors. Prayers for you and your family.
Thank you. Sanjeev, please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Dr. Hasib, for inviting me for this session. And thank you, sister, for the wonderful start and setting the stage for the next speaker to talk about. So, Dr. Hasib, I just would like to ask you a couple of questions. Before that, I'll just quickly say something about myself. So, my name is Sanjeev Gathani, and I'm from Singapore. And I run my own consultancy practice, a Better Business Governance, and I specialize in the space of governance, risk, and compliance. I also run a social enterprise where I help people combat their fight against obesity. Because I went through that journey, and now I'm helping people in that space. So that's a very short introduction of myself. So I think the more important is to get the views of Dr. Hasib on a few things, right? So I think sister spoke about cybersecurity leadership, doctor. And I think it's very vital today. A lot of companies, they thought they buy the boxes and they solve their cyber problems without taking into account the people. So in your view, Dr. Hasib, what do you think, right, CEOs should do today in their battle against cyber? Is it just buying the boxes and putting it, or is it empowering the people, right, to do what they need to do? Then I'll ask the next question after that.
Sure. So one of the things about people like Sister Merceditas and my friend Rima Aristocrat is that here are some CEOs who are doing it right, because the first thing they did was talk to me, gain some insights about my ideas. We chatted, they attended one of my seminars, webinars, and then they went ahead and read my book. It's a very, very small investment, but that little thing is going to update their entire education that they might have received in, say, MBA school or whatever, because the current MBA programs do not deal with cybersecurity leadership. And that is a big gap, because they are trying to teach you accounting, finance, and all of those things, but they're not teaching you digital strategy. But without that, the modern CEO cannot survive. And that is why they have this wrong impression that it is all about technology, it's all about computer science, because they don't know what cybersecurity is. And a typical vendor does not often know about it, and it is not in their best interest to tell you, oh, you don't need a box, you actually need to understand and maybe hire some people and maybe put in some policies and some governance and all of those things and some training. But you see, if they do that, they're not going to sell any boxes.
Correct, doctor. Yeah, so that leads on, I think, to the second question, right? That what we talked about earlier is that, okay, putting in the boxes is one, but I think the more important is the people, right? Like what sister said and what I also alluded to and what you're saying. And I think people, CEOs need to understand you can have the best products, but if your people are wrong, you're going to fail,
Absolutely.
right? It doesn't matter. So that comes to the next point. Doctor, what do you think, in your opinion, because having worked in many countries and now where you are, and I myself am working in different countries, right? One of the challenges I face in the space of cyber is managing the cultural aspect. Because like earlier on, you spoke about colors, you spoke about language, right? And I shared with you before the meeting that I had an encounter yesterday with my Indian colleague who wrote to me in red and bold, and I got offended. But to her, it's okay. And I just couldn't get across this point that, guys, you need to understand culture, right? Like if you look at Americans, they are quite loud when they speak. But if you look at the Thais or even the Filipinos, they're very soft-spoken, very gentle. Right? How do we manage this, and what tips would you give the audiences, right, in this space? Because cyber, like you said, is borderless. It knows no boundaries.
Absolutely. So this is, again, you brought out, I'm so glad that we're having this conversation, because this is another very, very important point that even one of my students and mentees was talking about yesterday. One of the things she was talking about is that she's interacting with a whole bunch of people from different countries. And as a result, she's trying to understand the culture. And unfortunately, too many people, and in some ways, I think we Americans are very guilty of that. I personally, because of my intercultural background, I'm a little bit more open and I understand many cultures and I'm sensitive to many cultures. But this is a huge thing that a cybersecurity professional will need to do. Because if you're going to implement a cybersecurity culture, you first have to understand what culture exists.
Exactly, Doctor.
Right. And then you got to overlay somehow the cybersecurity culture on top of that culture. So too many times when you try to implement something and you don't understand the culture, you're going to fail also.
Absolutely. So it comes back to the point that we need to understand the people, the process, and then the systems, right?
There you
People
go.
are very
In that
important.
order. In that order.
That leads on to my another question is that I think we did talk about this earlier, and sister also mentioned, I do presentations and I've been to even Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, Africa. And one of the things I found that in universities, I went through just like you, they teach a lot of academia, right? And that's my problem today with universities. I said, guys, the real world doesn't work in academia. You got to understand the practicality, because if you put me in a situation and you say that, okay, now I've got 10 minutes, present to my board, right? There is a breach, a cyber attack. What am I supposed to do? I can't go to the rule book 101 because the rule book 101 is out of the window. Right. And what I found, right, Doctor, and perhaps you can share your insights, how do we get the CISOs, CTOs, CIOs, whatever you want to call them, to be able to present the business language to the board, right? And to put it in such a way that the people understand. Because I really have a struggle with this, trying to tell people and academia that, guys, the real world is very different. It ain't a bed of roses. So maybe you can share some tips on that.
Absolutely. So let's first understand why the problem exists. What happens in typical academia? In typical academia, you get your bachelor's degree, then you get your master's degree, and then you go into your PhD program. Sometimes you go to the PhD program from your bachelor's degree, and you get your master's degree along the way. And you never actually work a single day in the real world. You then get your doctoral degree, and then after that, you're a professor. And now you're teaching theory books, all kinds of things, but you are interested in research in a very small slice of whatever it is that you're doing. May have nothing to do with the real world also, because too much of the research is not what is called translational research, where the results will be used in business. Too much of research sometimes is just pure academic research. And I love it, okay? Sometimes you absolutely need that pure academic research. But in reality, there are so many business problems out there that still don't have solutions that I think at least in our field, in the business field, in this data science field, we need more practical oriented research, and that needs to be done. So I recently heard that there's a school that is now talking about having a internship or a practical requirement for PhD holders. I'm like, oh, what a great idea. I wouldn't even want to give somebody a PhD unless that person has done some real work in the field. I would prefer to have somebody work for 5 years, then come back when they understand what real problems there are in the industry, and then during your doctoral program, solve one of those problems for real. Now I can use your research to go out there. In some ways, I did a little bit of that myself because I had already worked for more than 25 years in the field when I went into my doctoral program. So I did a very practical doctoral dissertation. I did it in US healthcare cybersecurity, and I looked at the implementation of the HIPAA privacy law in the United States. Well, interestingly enough, a lot of hospitals, a lot of places are actually using that work to understand how HIPAA has been implemented in the United States and what they might need to do. And as a matter of fact, it launched a lot of conversations. I was invited to many medical forums to talk about that aspect. So it became very practical. That's the kind of dissertations I would prefer people do more and more, because those other things are creating the wrong kinds of professors. I also believe that the professors really need to have more part-time jobs and some jobs outside, maybe 50-50 split, whatever. I mean, we need to have professors who are always in touch with reality.
Perfect. I mean, Dr. He shared very good insight. That leads on to the next part, right? So what we have now is theoretical people versus practical people, right?
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, correct me if I'm wrong, in the real world, it's all about practicality and how you get the whole team to come back to your book. I have not read it yet, but after this, I will definitely read it by the weekend. You have my word on that, right? But my point here is that, how do we get a whole bunch of different people to work together with the common objective of keeping our borders safe? When I say borders safe, means keeping our cyberspace safe, because we cannot eliminate the cyber risk, right? Like Sister mentioned, the risk is there. If you want to eliminate it totally, then close your business, because cyber is not going to go away, privacy is not going to go away. So how, in your view, how do we put this team together, and how do we have that synergy and that positive energy so that everyone knows that cyber is everybody's problem and not just the CEO's problem, and that leadership, including ethical leadership, is very important? So maybe you can share your views on that.
Right. So the first thing is they have to understand what cybersecurity is, because too many people equate cybersecurity with, say, security or the protection of information. But cybersecurity is more about perpetual innovation than it is about protection of anything. So the key is to think of your organization as a baseball team, let's say. In a baseball team, what do we have? Diversity of roles. We don't have everybody is a first baseman. That's not a successful team, right? We have different position players, but they all know the objective. They all know the objective is to outbid the other team, outdo the other team, score runs, and know the weaknesses and strengths of the other team, study, and all of that, right? So again, they all know the mission. The entire team studies the mission. They have strategy sessions, and it is orchestrated by the manager or the coach, all these people that are supposed to orchestrate. Notice that many of these people actually earn far less than the position players. So you see, in our culture, in our organizations, one of the things that we have done is flipped the organizational chart. The people that are doing less and bringing in less money are now making more money, the executives. In any company, the executives aren't the producers of the revenue. The people that produce the revenue are far below the ranks. Those are the
Absolutely.
superstars, the real players, okay? Why
Yes.
don't we pay people according to the production of profit rather than what is their power and authority? A typical manager or an executive, it's a very easy job. I could do almost any executive's job right now. But most executives wouldn't be able to do my job. So why are they making so much more money? In many organizations, a typical executive is making 3, 4, 5, 10, 400 times what I might be making. Why? That doesn't make any sense,
Thanks.
right?
Yeah, true.
So this is
Yeah.
the issue. And so when the real people start producing, then you're also going to start getting better players, right? You are bidding for talent. Now, often with this flipped revenue, flipped compensation model, what happens? You're trying to hire the cheapest person. Well, now you're going to have to suffer in quality.
Correct. So
Instead, if you tried to hire the best people and paid according to the production, that would make a difference, wouldn't it?
yeah, so like they say, no, when you pay peanuts, you get monkeys.
I love it. I love it. When you pay peanuts, you get monkeys. I love
Yeah,
it.
and at the end of the day, it boils down to that, right? What value do you see the person brings to the table? So that leads on to my final question, right? That in your opinion, Dr. Azim, what do you think is the single most important skill, right, one should have in the real world, right? And I think in my view, I think the ability to apply your knowledge and the ability to speak, that means public speaking, is very, very important. Because I went through the Toastmasters journey. So I just want your view. What do you think, in your view, being an accomplished speaker and author in the space of cybersecurity leadership, do you think that one people need to have that public speaking skill and that ability to apply? So what's your take?
This is a golden question because without that Toastmasters experience, I could never have accomplished the communication skills that I was able to accomplish. Because you have been in Toastmasters, so therefore you know that
Yep.
most of our speeches are 5 to 7 minutes. We
Correct.
cannot bore somebody with 1 hour of nonsense.
No one wants to listen.
So we have to be very economical and we have to have a powerful message within that 5 to 7 minutes. Then we do evaluations. In other words, we give people feedback, constructive feedback on their speeches, and we do that in 2 to 3 minutes. Again, you cannot give nonsensical advice, right? Again, very, very solid, useful advice in 2 to 3 minutes. We then learn to talk on the cuff for 1 to 2 minutes on table topics,
Yes.
right?
Correct.
Unprepared, we don't know what the question is going to be. As a matter of fact, this show of mine, this is really table topics on steroids, isn't it? I don't know what questions anybody is going to ask. But essentially, it is my Toastmasters skills that is allowing us to have an engaging conversation in almost any topic that people are bringing in.
Absolutely right.
Toastmasters is vital. I think everybody in the whole world should go to Toastmasters. It's the cheapest way to learn leadership, public speaking, communications, and it's going to increase their income by literally at least 50% over their lifetime. So think about that.
Yeah, so in short, right, I think it would be they would have to understand the KISS principle, right? Keep it simple and sweet.
There you go.
So
Yeah.
in closing, right, Dr. Azim, what final or 3 tips would you give to people who want to manage the cyber risk within their organization? What would you say are the 3 key things or takeaways that they need to have in order to reduce that threat?
Well, it's not the question about just reducing the threat. They need to understand cybersecurity first. So
Yeah,
I would
correct.
first say build relationships with lots of people. Because what happens when you build relationships with lots of people? You start to learn. The new world is all about micro-learning.
Right.
My network, people like you, people like Sister Merceditas, Bryce Fabro, Dr. Fabro, all these people, all my friends. I mean, I have more than 12,000 connections. But I engage at a micro level with almost any one of them. When I see their posts, I see what they're posting, I comment, I engage. Sometimes I post something, you make a comment. Sometimes they disagree, sometimes they agree. But this is micro learning happening minimum 15 minutes every day. This is one thing. Second thing, communications. Understand that you need to refine your message and then continuously refine your message. My God, my definition of cybersecurity changed within 2014 to 2017, those 3 years, because I learned a lot as I visited the conferences and I interacted with a lot of people, and I understood that governance was a big aspect of cybersecurity. So earlier, I used to use the word management when I was talking about managing information. But I said, no, 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 no. Management's objective is very different. They're too much process-oriented, whereas governance is actually leadership-oriented and innovation-oriented, because governance allows for innovations and variations, whereas management is trying to straitjacket everybody. Okay, so that is different. That is different. The other thing is truly understand and embrace diversity, different opinions, and all that. You cannot lead an entire organization and have it be a rich organization with the brains of one person. I don't care how smart you are. You need everybody's brain, and you cannot shut out a particular gender or a race or whatever. I mean, that is ridiculous. Everybody needs a fair shot and a fair chance, and we all need to embrace diversity, because we were talking about just the communication of the culture. Guess what? If I'm going to run a multi-million-dollar, billion-dollar global company, and I need to do things in India or Philippines or Singapore, and I have nobody from those cultures on my team to help me understand those cultures, I'm at a big disadvantage, am I not?
Absolutely right. I mean, I think you hit the nail in the coffin by saying the 3 points, right? Building relationships, doing the micro learning, right? And communicating. I think that's very, very important, because what I find most of the time, they think that CEOs think they're one man army. It doesn't work that way, right? In the most successful companies, it is a team effort that makes you reach the end of the goal. Right? And I think this is a marathon, it's not a sprint. So you're not doing a Usain Bolt, you're doing a run. Right?
All right. Well, this has been absolutely wonderful chatting with you.
Thank you, Doctor.